She stood motionless in the kitchen as the morning sunlight streamed through the blinds, striping her face with shadows like bars on a cell. She didn't flinch when she said it. "If that's a problem for you, I'll just sleep with your friends. You can walk out. They won't mind stepping in." She let out a laugh, as if it were some offhand joke, like she hadn't just shoved a knife into my chest and twisted it with a smile. I didn't yell, didn't throw anything, didn't even ask who she meant. I simply nodded, steady, silent. "All right," I replied, calm, detached. Then I added, almost like it was an afterthought, "The daughter that made you laugh harder." She laughed even more, thinking I was bluffing. She always assumed I was too passive to push back. That was her biggest miscalculation. We'd been married for 10 years. High school sweethearts, the picture-perfect pair everyone believed would grow old together. We shared the same friends, the same inside jokes, the same hopes. And then, one day, she rewrote the rules. It started subtly, a few flirty texts she brushed off as harmless memes. Late nights out she excused as just hanging with the girls. But then her tone shifted. Less affection, more disdain. One night, drunk and careless, she forgot to silence her phone. That's when I saw the name. Alex. My best friend. I followed the message trail backward, tugging on the thread like unraveling a sweater. It didn't take long to fall apart. First Alex. Then Jared. Then Malik. Names I'd grown up with. Faces that stood beside me in wedding photos. She wasn't just cheating. She was burning my world down with purpose. It wasn't just betrayal. It was deliberate humiliation. Like she had a checklist of my closest friends, ticking them off one by one like trophies in some sick game. She didn't cheat on me like a wife who'd fallen out of love. She did it like someone daring me to notice, to challenge her. That thing she said, about them being happy to take my place, that wasn't empty talk. She knew they would. Some already had. What she didn't know was what I'd been quietly building. I never confronted her. Didn't raise my voice. I just slipped into strategy mode. I pulled back emotionally but kept my expression neutral. Let her believe I was broken. That illusion, her confidence in my weakness, was my first weapon. While she gloated, I got to work. I installed keyloggers, planted hidden audio devices, hacked her cloud backups. I didn't want guesses or accusations. I wanted solid proof. Evidence no one could refute. Photos, videos, chat transcripts. Every smug, cruel message exchanged behind my back. Every degrading laugh. And while I collected the receipts, I began phase 2. Because I wasn't just some dull, docile husband. I worked in pharmaceutical research, handling experimental compounds, fully legal, strictly controlled, and practically invisible unless you knew the precise markers to test for. Over the course of 3 months, I invited each of them to my place. One at a time, casual hangouts, weekend barbecues, card nights, beers out back. I played the friendly, clueless host to perfection. They drank what I handed them, ate what I served. Not one of them suspected anything. The substance I used acted slowly, never life-threatening, but unsettling enough to feel real. It mimicked intense neurological flare-ups, sudden spasms, periods of blindness, irregular heartbeats. Frightening symptoms, but all reversible. Most importantly, it could be detected, but only if someone knew exactly what they were searching for. I made sure the effects were dramatic. Paramedics were called. Word spread quickly. Fear bloomed. And that's when I activated the next phase. I sent an anonymous message to the hospital's lab, a quiet tip-off. Told them to test for a rare synthetic used exclusively in biotech pilot studies. Nothing a standard practitioner would ever think to check. By the next morning, the toxicology reports were in. Every one of them, Alex, Jared, Malik, had identical results. Same compound, identical dosage, matching symptoms. They were lined up in beds across the same hospital wing, wired to machines, sharing the same dread as they tried to understand what had happened. Then the staff brought out the lab results. That's when everything shifted. Their fear turned to disbelief. One of them began to sob, because listed beneath the name of the chemical was the registered patent holder. Me. I arrived at the hospital that afternoon, as calm as a quiet Sunday. Alex tried to rise, startled. Jared shrank back. Malik avoided my eyes completely. You really ought to watch what you swallow, I said evenly. Especially when you're busy screwing another man's wife. Some tried to speak, an apology here, a plea there, but I didn't care to listen. I opened the folder I'd brought with me, packed with printed screenshots, photos, every explicit message they'd sent her. Evidence, bound and organized. I dropped it on the table beside their beds. Keep it, I said, for when your wives start asking questions. Then I turned and walked out. I had one person left. When I got home, she was in the kitchen again, just like before, stirring a pot on the stove like nothing had changed. She turned, all sugary sweetness. Did you check in on your friends? Yeah, I said. They're conscious. Should be discharged in a couple weeks. Scared out of their minds. Her smile twitched. She knew that tone. She knew what was coming. She opened her mouth to speak, but I cut in. Oh, by the way, I filed for divorce yesterday. Cited infidelity. With evidence. She scoffed. That's not going to hold. You can't prove any of it. I slid a flash drive across the counter. I already have. Everything's archived, time-stamped, and stored in 5 different places. The attorneys have copies. So will the judge. She looked from the drive to me, eyes narrowing. What did you do to them? She whispered. I leaned in, voice low. I gave them a dose of decay. Not enough to finish them, just enough to remind them. She took a step back, shaken. And one more thing, I said as I turned to leave. Your daughter, Claire, she left this morning. Said she doesn't want to grow up like her mother. That's when her expression cracked. Eyes wide, hands trembling. I never told her anything, I added. She figured it out on her own. That's the thing about revenge. People think it has to be loud, explosive, messy. But it doesn't. Sometimes it's just a quiet line, a choice made, and a daughter who chooses a different path. I don't regret what I did. They played with venom. I simply made sure they tasted it.